Hey, everybody. Welcome to Comics Covr'D, your weekly show where co-founders of Cover Price, Matt and I, talk about comics. Today, we have one true nerd king, Mr. Phil, who is still recovering, but in great spirits today. Today's a crazy day. There's Inauguration Day. It's Martin Luther King Day. But today, we're here to talk about comics. And in particular, Matt, what are we talking about today?
Generally, it's a broad topic, but covering like speculation when it comes to content and the dangers that come with it. And that's been kind of our wheelhouse for a long time. But it's stemming from our reflective article we did last week, which was a 3-year look back at the market. And so we'll kind of just reflect, go through that a bit and kind of touch upon some of the higher talk points on that, and just kind of like explore what goes right and wrong in terms of content speculation.
So a pretty interesting, I think, conversation, especially with Phil, who is a Star Wars expert as well, because I know we're going to be touching on that. But Phil, how you doing? How's everything, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You're an expert at Star Wars.
I'm definitely a person that spends probably way too much time in Star Wars. I grew up, obviously. It was the first movie I ever saw was Return of the Jedi with my dad. Live action film I ever saw when we were here. And then there was, I have every single one of the old Del Rey books from the old mothballed, discontinued Star Wars universe to where we're at now with the Disneyfied versions and things of that nature, and canon versus legacy. So I've always, Star Wars has always been a constant. Star Wars and Star Trek, those are my two big things. Very, very fan wise anti each other, but I love both. Kind of like Marvel and DC, right? You gotta love both sometimes.
I never understood the anti each other because I've watched both, and I will say I've enjoyed both in almost the same way, but in completely different.
It's crazy. My first movie was Star Trek 4.
Really?
First
Is
movie,
that the whale one.
The whale one, yeah. Where the whales save us.
Yep,
obviously.
It was the best Star Trek movie.
It was. I love. Spot. They go back and it's like the San Francisco in the '60s or whatever, and Spock's
in the '80s. In the '80s, they're like dancing in the freaking like pinching in
the punk rock guy in the bus who's in trouble. Yeah. But I agree. There's no. It's funny. I think one is fantasy and the other is science, right? And so the two kind of play weirdly with each other. I mean, I think Masters of the Universe would be a good bridge between them because it's science and magic. So it's kind of like that thing, but another conversation. I know we have a giveaway. We have 2 giveaways today because we promised something last time. We didn't do a giveaway and we said we'd go through the comments.
Yeah. So whoever left a comment in last week's episode in the comment section, basically grabbed your names. There's only 29, so it's less of a competition than it is even in a normal
what people hate free comics.
People really don't like. It's too much. It's like, I gotta go back and type.
I gotta type something.
We did have a few comments that said comment LOL. So
they get 2 points.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put up the giveaway?
Here, go ahead and share it.
So for those of you who did a comment, you are in the running to win this cool. Was this Mario's 3 homage for Lucky Devils?
Yeah, Lucky Devils #1. This is the Bird City. They didn't give this to us. This was one of our copies. So
cool.
Yeah. So this is not a sponsor, but it is a cool. If you love Nintendo. Love homages. It's a fun one, and this is a big book right now. It did sell out in terms of the core series.
It's the whole 8 Billion Genies thing, right?
Yeah, same folks.
Yeah, sweet.
It's a good book. I got to read it earlier. Image sent me an early release. I got the Ashcan from New York Comic Con, I think it was. And it was great. It's a really great story. Basically, a couple of devils are tired of always doing the bad thing for people, and there's kind of like, how can we turn this around? Maybe we can elevate ourselves if we start doing good things for our humans that we're assigned to. And it's a great premise. It's fun. The first issue was great. But I'm a fan. So
So let's ask ourselves who's the lucky devil that's going to win this book?
Oh, nice, Matt.
I promise I'm only going to use that once for if this series gets super popular. That one comment's reserved for just this show.
So, there you go.
That's saying a lot for you, Matt.
I know it's officially retired after that. So, but there's some things I just need to say out loud, or they'll just be in my head forever.
It's a dad thing, man.
Totally.
You have to put
so look,
things out there.
You're not seeing Double Vision. This is the show from last week. These are all the comments. So if you see your name on here, basically if you're in the section, I grabbed. Hopefully there were no last minute. Let's see if there's any last minute. Nope. Okay. So we have all these comments. Then what I did is I put those comments here. So just take a quick scan. Anyone who does not see their name on there, that was in the comment section.
We're trying hard not to dox anybody, so there's no email addresses. This is just usernames.
And I grabbed it in order as they show up on our site. So I literally just went in order of those names. So yeah, well, yeah. All right, let's roll it.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Does this one have the cool sound effect?
Can you hear it?
Oh, okay.
Luis Mendoza. So I'm going to tag him in the comments there. Luis, I don't know if you're here, but I'm going to look for you here in the comments, and I'm going to say, hey, at Luis. Let's see if that works. Well, that works? No?
No.
Okay.
Just yeah. Usually this is where I just kind of like, hey, out to me on Instagram, okay? Because this is the only place this works.
For leaving a comment on this show. All right.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Reach out to us. I can't type.
That's if you're an homage collector or a NES collector. I mean, that's a pretty good find.
Oh yeah.
Man, I love that whole Mario 3 cover or whatever, Super Mario's, where he's the Tanuki or whatever he was.
Oh yeah. The raccoon thing.
Flying raccoon.
Yeah.
There you go. We tag Lewis. If he doesn't claim it by this time next week, we'll just roll it again. How about that?
Or you can just give it to me. I'll take it.
There we go.
I mean, hey.
Hey, it's taken. It's taken.
I'll take a screenshot just in case. There we go. All right, done.
All right.
We have another give. So the giveaway. So for those that want to stay to the end of the show, you don't have to. You can pop back up at like 5:50, and maybe we'll run at 4:45 or 5:45.
Why would that?
We'd rather you stay. We'd rather you stay.
Yeah, we would rather you stay. But we're gonna give away a Witchblade 7, the Silvestri 1 in 25 homage to the to his classic X-Men cover with the Brood.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, that's the giveaway for today.
That's the giveaway for today. And if you so can you share my screen, Don?
Sure.
A little fun it's actually number 15 on the runners up list. So you kind of, I think this book is going to climb up a little bit. This is the first reappearance of the Darkness. So I think this is a good one to have. And just a little snapshot of the top 10 this week. All the video game covers, the classic Capcom versus X-Men covers.
That was interesting. That those popped up.
Yeah, I was really surprised because they were like typically just they were like cover price books. But I forget, there was something Jen said something about it wasn't the Wolverine book specifically was not reorderable at Diamond when it came out. The rest were. So this was one that kind of got gobbled up. And then Venom, of course, these are probably the two most in-demand cover characters that you can find from Marvel. And Storm obviously took number 2. So the Kando book. We had it on our Day After Wednesday article last week. So
what was why do you think Kanto hit number 1?
Just so
cover.
I don't know if you know the artist Flops.
Mm-mm.
I think we said it last week. I wish that was my nickname. Flop.
We can make it happen, Matt.
No, he's already taken, and it had to be like flippity flops or something.
Yeah, we do flops
have to
be for you or something. Flops.
But Flops is awesome. His art is, or their art, I don't know specifically, but their art is fantastic. They had a very successful Kickstarter, and he's released a lot of things on his own. Just the covers are just awesome. And we highlighted one of his books a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago when I think he made the top 10 then, or there was some list that he made. I can't remember, but he's been gaining. They've been gaining a lot of steam. And this book this is the last issue of Kanto, however you want to say it. And it's just one of those covers, just right artist, right book at the right time, And a lot of people love his style because it's very modern retro, Mm-hmm. I'll try and see if I can bring up a sample of his work, actually. I'll pull it up off screen here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you can see this was actually our Day After Wednesday article from last week.
Yeah, so if those of you guys who are interested in any of that stuff, Cover Price, we have all the articles up on the website. Just go to the CP content. Once you go to the site, it's free to all, so anyone could read it. And there's, we have like 24 articles every single month coming out. So
this is just his Flop style. It's just this kind of modern retro. It's the only way I can explain it. He just has this throwback style to like 80s art, but with just a modern twist to it. It's just awesome. So the fact that Flops is taken off is no surprise to those that have been this was the cover we showed a while back. It was on our top 10, I believe.
Nice. Yeah, I dig it.
Very cool. Yeah, if you aren't following Flops, follow Flops. You won't be sad.
Yeah, right on.
So to kind of get into things, even though that's our quick little snapshot of the top 10, of course, we'll go into the article will hit tomorrow morning, and the show will be on tomorrow night, and you can see them cover the top 10. A lot of people, Near Nirvana covers the runners up list, as well as if you just search like Cover Price top 10, there's a bunch of channels that do their own little coverage of the top 10 and runners up. So that's that's kind of cool. I kind of enjoy that. For better or for worse.
It's pretty cool to see independent comics, the gaming stuff happening, the TV show influence, like all the content. Like there's so many different things happening on this list right now.
Yeah, I mean this is a cover by, reader by, mm-hmm. Video game, cover by, content, video game, reading, and then content. It's just a big blend of where everyone is right now.
And of course, Spawn at 20.
And then Spawn just pops back in just to make sure that people know that he's still there. It's just weird. There's some books like White Tiger. I expected this to be higher on the list, but these out-trended them in a big way.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of it, though, too. There's lots of different people collecting comics, and mm-hmm. the top 10 is a reflection of that. It's not just like a speculation top 10. It's not just like this is reporting what's going on in comics. And the good thing about comics is that not everybody's doing the exact same thing. There's always ways to expand, and that's what I love about these lists is the fact that I can see what other people are enjoying, and myself. I do like modern comics. I don't cover chase as much as I used to. I've got my favorites and I do go after those, but in all other intents and purposes, the reason I love the list is because I can see what's still going on in comics with other characters, other things going on, what other people love too.
Yeah. And for me, what's interesting is that the market doesn't follow the same set of rules anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, this first appearance of Muse, the better cover, in my opinion, with him on it is out trending his first appearance. And it's just interesting to see, well, not price wise, maybe, but it is having a faster uptick in terms of the two covers. This is still a little more pricier.
Well, we could talk about Incredible Hulk, like Wolverine appearance, like first appearance versus, cover. We've got lots of different ways.
Wait, Wolverine? Did you say Wolverine?
His ugly head in so many different things in the comics. So, yeah. Yeah.
Is number 12 Doom, the Doom War stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is all connected to still the same Secret Wars stuff. A lot of people are doing all these videos based off of whatever's coming out of Captain America. You know, there's a lot of stuff starting to trickle out and a lot of theories that are going around. So this book popped back up. I think a lot of it has to do when other channels will do a big coverage on things like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were aware, remember the previous conversation when they announced that Robert Downey Jr., just to be clear, was going to be Victor Von Doom, not Dr. Doom, but Victor Von Doom. There were all these books that were like 10 different books that related to being the first Iron Man as Dr. Doom. When the truth, like where I think just all the fallout was just people went to this classic battle of Iron Man versus Doom.
I mean, I'm gonna be totally honest. If I had to collect one book that I could take to Robert Downey Jr. to get autographed in any way, shape, or form, it is this cover. It is this book.
You're absolutely right. That's actually
everything else, man. That is the absolute book. If I had the opportunity to stand in line, if I did not have that book in my hands for one signature for both characters, Iron Man right on top, Dr. Doom right at the bottom, and Robert Downey Jr. right through the middle. Holy crap!
Would you make him sign it twice?
He signed it twice, yeah.
Oh no, I would have just one. I don't know. It's the one guy that can sign a cover once, and it's to everything.
But here's the problem: it's there's so much black and color on this. What color pen would he use?
Silver. People use the silver on this.
Okay.
Silver,
but the problem is you have to stay away from Doom. So you'd have to do either right here, or you have to do it, or you'd have to do it on there. That's the problem. There's a lot of real estate taken up here. You'd have to do it sideways. Right here, I think that'd look the best out of everything.
So go back to the top 10.
So sorry, I apologize. I completely
no, not at all. I'm just gonna say what might be fun is if you guys could choose one book to have on this list, if you don't already have it, what would it be? Is that yours, Phil, or are you gonna choose a different one?
You know what? Actually, I'm looking right now again, just kind of in the back of my head for a moment here. I mean, to me, it would be between this and Lobo, but I've got a bunch of the Lobos, and I do have a reader copy of that Iron Man. So in my mind, I would probably go with the Iron Man, and I'd be hoping for the better copy of it. The rest of the books I have a couple of, but yes, I would definitely be after that Iron Man Doom cover. That's just. That to me is just dope.
You did sell it. That was a pretty good pitch for sure.
this would be mine if I could have a 9.8 of this cover. I would a good classic Zek cover. It's a 9.8, and this would be pretty awesome.
I go for both of those, but that Wolverine Capcom just has too many good memories to me, so I think I'd probably go for that.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean,
there's nothing.
The nice thing is you could buy that for $10 right now. So
I mean, I don't go for the investment. I go for the personal PC stuff.
Right. Totally get it. No, that's dope.
Actually, it's not $10. Well, it's like $12 right now.
Yeah. Consider it sold. I'm getting it.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's such a great, I love that art direction for Wolverine. Just the big kind of ear thingies, which makes sense. There's no practice for it.
There was something that ruined Wolverine's mask for me. I'm sure Phil knows what it is.
Batman.
But it was the two Batmen kissing.
I knew it as soon as you said it, like Batman.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm gonna ruin it for everyone else. Let's see if people can.
I also did you guys ever see the Dave Nakayama covers of the X-Men where he did basically that Street Fighter look where you see Mr. Sinister versus Psylocke, and you see these different, and you've got them. It's a sideways cover of the comics. That would that's the one. That's the one right there.
And I can't ever see it. Even during Wolverine Deadpool, I was looking at the two Batmen kissing.
I think it says something more about you. It's like one of those things where whatever comes out is just on your mind, Matt, and maybe you just wanted Batman.
I guess so, but it's just I think this just it
looks like they're fighting over an Oreo cookie,
right? It doesn't look like something you really want to advertise a lot.
Yeah. JD is like, I can't unsee this now.
Yeah, that definitely.
Welcome to my world. You'll never not think about it now when you see a close up of his mask. because you'll look for the two Batman every single
that's
time.
hilarious. That is awesome.
Here's this one. Someone pointed out that Wolverine is simply two Batmans kissing. Yeah, I can't unsee it.
Lady and the Tramp with an Oreo.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
man.
So there you go.
Well, thanks for ruining it for me, Matt.
Ruined it for everyone. Yeah.
Well, if one of us suffers, we all suffer. This is what we have to,
We're in this together.
I actually I chuckle at it every time. Like during Wolverine Deadpool, it was like, your own little thing.
Yeah.
All right, so
made it in there. What's one of the every single other joke made it in there? Maybe they're waiting for a sequel to add that kind of thing in there.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Now the stuff with Blake Lively, the guy that's suing them because Nice Pool's like oh my god, it's a rip off of.
That's a whole thing in and of itself. That's a whole episode of conversation for us all to start talking about with minefields of conversation and opinions.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially from a trio of white guys here talking about sexual harassment and everything. I'm like,
hey, that's our favorite topic, is we go right into sexual harassment.
Right?
So if you guys don't know, in our content page, we actually have I'll go back a little bit. We every Wednesday we come out with our top 10 reflective. And it's under our content page, under top 10 reflective. If you go I'll go back even one little more step, it'll be right here at the top with Tintin looking through his binoculars,
because he's looking back and he's from the past.
That's right, he's looking back. And just so
we're looking really far back,
so how we do it is first week of the month we go 1 year, second week of the year we go 2 years, third week of the month we go back 3 years for it. The trend, and on those rare weeks that we have 5, we'll go back 5 years. They're really fun to do because they're really like capsules of what was happening this time, whatever time span that was, whatever was happening in the world around us had an influence. It's kind of a nice, like a lot of these talk about, like, oh, hey, the trailer for this Marvel film just released and these books are going crazy. It's kind of a nice a flashback. So when we go back to January 2022, 3 years, we have like the first appearance of Elsa Bloodstone's sister, I think Lyra or something like that. We had the first appearance of the God of Hammers. We had Black Carix. How do you say his name?
Black Carashan. Yeah,
you have to do it in
Wookiee Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, I can't say it.
Terrible appearance in Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. We'll get into that stuff.
We'll get into it. We had first appearance of Miss Minutes on the cover. We had Lyra, Bloodstone's sister was all over this in 3 different appearances. We had Dr. Aphra, Nina. What was it? Was it Vampire by Night? Nina Price, is that her name? I believe. I don't remember. Nina Price, Vampire by Night. This was her first appearance. And then we had the first solo series to Elektra's Daredevil. Now, you look at this, the snapshot, these are typically probably still viable books today. You would look at them and you'd be like, if you saw them in a dollar bin, you pick it up, most likely. What's interesting is, like, a lot of these just took a huge, like, this was a 1 in 50.
Hey, Matt, before you go on, I'm so sorry to cut you off. Can you blow up your screen and kill the bottom ad? Just so it's
I want to know what Adobe wants to sell me today.
They keep coming to me too. Don't you worry. Thank you, sir.
All right. So just a little quick snapshot is that we had this Daredevil. I mean, this is basically a reader thing, 204 to 14. So it's not. This was a brutal drop. She's still Daredevil, so it's kind of like, and this was 3 years ago. People thought this was going to be like a 1 month kind of thing, and then she was going to be done. She's still Daredevil. I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up in Marvel Rivals as Daredevil. That would be awesome. And maybe there's a second life. Here's where we'll start getting into content speculation. What always used what used to happen, and I'm sure it's going to bounce back once Marvel announces starts releasing trailers, and you start seeing more Easter eggs, and you see more stuff being announced slate wise. What was happening a lot 2 years ago, before the kind of the lackluster Marvel stuff was really pulling books down. People would speculate on everything. So when they announced that the actress, oh my god, what is her name? It's somewhere in here. Laura Donnelly. Yeah, she was cast in the Werewolf by Night Halloween special, and people just immediately assumed she was going to be Nina Price, and there wasn't any reference to what character she was going to play. But this is what happens: is people jump into one book, and then they this book gets incredibly hot, and then it goes through the roof. Like this was $100 raw, 650 to 9.8. I don't know how long it took, but I believe it was about 6 months later when they announced that she was going to be Elsa Bloodstone.
Yeah.
And then this book just plummeted. Now it's 29 raw, $60 and a 9.8. That's a really hard drop. Now, this was a cover by book. This was a very popular book for cover collectors for a while. I'm blanking on the artist who did this. Oh my god, who did the cover? If someone can help remind me, it's I'm blanking on the artist on this. If any of you out there know, let me know. I'm just it's in there. I can't retrieve it. But this is what's that? Yeah. So this was one I love. Man Thing, JD. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Halloween special was probably one of my favorite things out of the post Endgame MCU. Man Thing was done beautifully. It was perfect. It actually made me want to see more Man Thing. Well, don't use that in any type of clip. We gotta have a Man Thing joke in there somewhere. So it's kind of interesting to see. This is what happens a lot, and it's typically one of those words of caution.
James Jen or Gene cover.
Oh yeah, James
Jen.
Yeah, James Jen is awesome. He did a lot of the Fables covers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I can see that. And he didn't do a ton of Marvel stuff, I don't think. So this was always the covers by. Now this book is going to be fine. It's always going to be a $30, maybe $50 book, but it was definitely. I don't think it'll ever see that $650 unless Nina Price becomes some big character. But this is kind of one of the things we also actually saw with Dazzler. I was talking. I mean, obviously everyone got wrapped into that, and it was in our face. Like I feel like they were teasing us, right? With like them all being at the Chiefs game together, and
well, that happened more than once too, Matt. Like this is the first time that people have Taylor Swift did the whole like gonna be Dazzler, and every single time mutants come up, Taylor Swift's in some kind of conversation of gonna be Dazzler. I think since Deadpool 2, right? Didn't it happen back then already?
Yeah.
It wasn't the first time. It was definitely much more feverish this last time, but
I hear Taylor Swift is going to be Nina Price.
Yeah, right. There we go.
I mean, but I was talking to someone. I think it was at my LCS. I forget where it was, but I kind of said like, "Hey, what if she's not Taylor?" Everyone was buying these books up, and I knew someone that was buying a 9.8 of Dazzler's first appearance plus the core series. And I was like, well, you're spending all this money. What if she's not in the film? And they just replied, what if she is? And it was like, that's a perfect snapshot of what happens when it comes to content speculation. You could tell people, hey, this is a kind of a dangerous buy, but the people love to gamble. And that is something that comes into play that I think of people think that it's just FOMO. It's gambling. People love to take chances.
Yeah.
That's a great take. I mean, speculation is gambling in a lot of ways, but it's also like you feel like you have an edge because there's research. It's not just rolling the dice and hoping. It's like, okay, I did my research. These people are talking about it. Everyone's saying they're going to do it, and then you get that jump on the bus kind of FOMO feeling, and of course you got to pick it up. Prices go up, and then this is what happens.
But it's a mystery box with clues. You know, it's just it's you know, like, oh, there's only 10 of them, but one of them's guaranteed to have this book in it. You're like, oh, I got a 1 in 10 chance of being right. I'm gonna buy box number 3. You know,
John,
it is gambling, 100%.
If you can dig and find, we did a graph of the typical rise and fall of content speculation books. We actually did a presentation on it at San Diego or New York Comic-Con 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, let me try to find it.
Yeah, if you can find it, that'd be great to share, because we actually pinpointed like where the typical books, their common trend. And if you go back to some books, and this is why this theory works in some ways, is that usually when things were trending at a rumor level, and then it's officiated, and the prices on those books go bonkers, and they stay bonkers for about 6 months. It usually typically doesn't get to its all-time high until about 6 months later. And then when things start to go on cruise control, it starts to go down a little bit because people move on to other things. And then as a trailer hits, people release their things into the wild. Yeah, you want to blow it up, John? You want to zoom in a little bit, John?
Yeah, it's 100%. Once the trailers drop, everything starts to go down. That's what I've always found with, as soon as it's confirmed that there's a trailer out.
So here's the typical lifestyle. Yeah, go for it, John.
No, I'm just queuing you up. Go for it. If you want to, here's all the points.
So you have your natural growth. In the spec rumors, you'll start seeing a climb. And then you hit your confident rumors, you'll see a jump even more. Meaning, like, these are the leakers, where they're like, leakers that have a lot of backing, or even Variety or Hollywood Reporter. Someone will be like this, or you see a toy come out that confirm that a character is going to be in it, but there's been no official word. That's where those confident rumors come from. And then you get that announcement. And then people send out their books to get graded. People are like buying everything up in the market that they can. And a couple months later, you get those 9.8s coming back. Those get a little extra bump. And then you have newscast and constant script. Start to see a little bit of a decline. But then when you get to the trailer, and you get all those trailers and the breakdowns and the Easter eggs, you would think that normally they would spike. And they kind of hold value. But what happens at this point, every single person that's been holding these books, for whatever that last length of time is, what could be a year, 2, 3 years, they all throw it on eBay at the same time.
Yeah.
Now you went from, sorry, Phil, go for it.
No, I just said they fled the market. No, I'm agreeing with you 100%.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is the supply-demand curve happening, where all of the supply goes up because it's there, and so it's just available.
The absolute oversaturation of the books out there on the market.
Yeah, so the market gets completely oversaturated. Prices, then everyone gets competitive because, I spent X amount of dollars on this. I want to get my money back. So people start to drop the prices just to make sure that their book will get bought amongst all this other stuff. Then you just see the prices drop, and then then you get two things happening. One, people who had the book had 2 years to buy the book. They have the book. And then the people that want the book but are now scared off of the falling prices, they stay away. So now you have low demand and very high supply, and by release and post release, the book is just down in value. But if you look at that bottom line, what's interesting is that at that spec rumor level, it typically goes right back to that point. So in that theory of that, what people were going with Dazzler was that if they time it right and she is in it, then the book would have hit this crazy high, right? And then they would sell it at that point. And then it would go back to normal, as we always see. But that theory of like, if I don't buy it now, I'm going to miss out. And there is a little FOMO. There is a lot of FOMO in there. But that mixture of the gambling side of it too, because I mean, if Taylor was in it, the first appearance of Dazzler would have gone nuts, double, triple the value, most likely. So this is a good snapshot if you ever want to save this for your what was this one?
This is the
this was our case study we did for Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah.
So this is one that we did for Shang-Chi's first appearance specifically. And if you look back at the same gross, it had a very similar growth, but it was very steady up until release. And then you saw all those market copies, all the copies hit the aftermarket, and boom, just dropped in value. But
there were some caveats, I think, right? Because this is the typical thing that you mentioned with modern books and stuff. Do you think this one had a different curve just because it's a little bit of an older book?
This is where Phil was starting to talk about this earlier before we jumped on. When there's a good character that it was done well, the movie was good, and you want to see more of them, there's a little more there's a little more faith behind that character, right? Would you say that, Phil? Is that
and Shang-Chi was good. Shang-Chi was probably the best movie in that entire phase, in my opinion. It was that's and well, Simu Liu was fantastic. I loved Shang-Chi. It was a great movie. So for me, that's the reason why it could, because I think it had the writing there, and it was a movie. A lot of people also spec on shows, which is like the hardest, and we're going to talk about that with Star Wars. But this to me is where Shang-Chi was, and this is the difference, is the fact that this character, this actor, this writing, this cast, and his placement in the MCU in its future is much more secure than so many other different characters.
But you look at that line where a nice reminder to everyone thinks that books are dead for these characters. The nice thing about content is that it does always give it a lift way above what it was pre-rumors, pre-announcement.
That's triple. I mean, you're looking at what, a 9.8 at 950, and then all of a sudden, it's now 9 years later, it's 3K.
That is a painful cliff, though. Look at that, 20K.
Yeah. But if I still had that back prior to 2015, and it was 950 and at 9.8, and if I had held on to it that long, it's probably because I freaking like Shang-Chi, not because I thought there was going to be a movie coming out at any time.
Right.
So for me, in my mind, it would still be a good investment. I would have been happy with that. But if I bought it come rumors time in 2018 or 2019 come announcement, I talk about like a punch in the throat. That's just,
I mean, at rumor level, you'd be breaking even still. It's really, if you bought it, geez, that's not English. If you went into it at some of those hills, then you would have hurt.
But even looking at your last chart too, right? Looking between rumors and announcement, that is a very gamey time. Because that can be very different too. Because like if it's a leak, is it Daniel RPK from Twitter? Did he say it?
Right.
Who is it? Who is it that made this spec rumor versus confident rumor? And that time frame can be so compressed, especially when we're getting so many movie announcements so quickly. Like the last few years are really what kind of screwed it up, with Marvel and DC each dropping 3-4 movies every single year, 4 or 5 different television series. There was so much to speculate on. There was that window that you're showing got compressed greatly. Like prior to, we were getting 1 or 2 Marvel movies a year, so we could speculate for 6 to 8 months. Between those two,
content speculation was the Hydra of comics, where you would cut one head off, it would die, but then 2 more things would pop up, and you'd be. And so I think that was I've been saying this for the past 2 years, is when people have said that the market feels down and all these big keys are dropping, it's because we haven't had that constant cycle of spec that always puts these Marvel books up on your shelf at cons and comic book shops.
The Mephisto effect.
Oh yes. That's a good point. So let's get back to the article here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll add you back. There you go.
Thank you for sharing that graph.
Yeah.
So we jump back into what's fascinating to me. If you go back to 2015, when this book came out, it was immensely speculated on. People were extremely excited about it. People were running to their shops. They were grabbing multiple copies. So there's a lot of speculators out there that are holding 5, 10, 15, 20 copies of Darth Vader #3. It was an exciting character. Plus, you have these 2 killer droids that people really enjoy as well. And then you had Black Character. I can't say Back Chris. Just call him BK.
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 Bounty hunter.
he shows up, and he's kind of teamed up with us. So like basically 3 years ago, when Book of Boba Fett introduced BK, people, and you got to remember, Dr. Aphra being speculated has been happening since Mandalorian season 1.
Yes, 100%.
And then it was like every single Star Wars show it was speculated. And then what happened was Av went, as soon as he appeared, the second, people are like, oh, well, she's got to be in it now. She's going to be in it. Is she going to appear now? Is she going to appear in the next show? Is she going to appear in the next season of Mandalorian? The speculation machine just went crazy again. And this book was $600 on 9.8 3 years ago.
Well, I think also too, Star Wars fans knew that Disney was really injecting female characters into many of their positions, and the two fan favorites are Mara Jade and Dr. Aphra. We already had Ahsoka. We knew that was happening. We definitely that was a thing. Don't get me wrong, right? We've all loved Ahsoka, but if we're looking to bring new characters into this Star Wars universe with Disney, that influence, when it came to speculation, there were two names on everyone's lips, and we knew Mara Jade wasn't going to happen because she was a Legends character that really got kind of washed out with this new Luke Skywalker that we got in the post trilogy. So that really left us with Dr. Aphra. And in my mind, Dr. Aphra is still a safe bet for something coming in the future. But unfortunately, the rumors have been so inconsistent and out of nowhere that it doesn't work. But Chloe Bennett for Dr. Aphra.
Right. But it's not even Disney's fault. It's our fault.
No, it's our fault.
injecting our hopes into it.
Yeah.
And it comes into like, to step back, and I would love to get your viewpoint on this. So the Mandalorian launch did something for Star Wars that all these past films couldn't do. It injected all this excitement and love and brought new people to the franchise and gave people the hope that maybe Disney knew what they were doing, because the Mandalorian was so good. And you look at the first book that had been ever speculated on a Star Wars book in years, Dr. Aphra was it. So between The Mandalorian and Dr. Aphra, there was all this hope around Star Wars books. And at this time, 3 years ago, there wasn't a single Star Wars book that wasn't gaining value. There wasn't a first appearance that wasn't gaining value. There was like Yoda's first appearance as a baby, like, even though it wasn't Baby Yoda, but like the most random Star Wars books were turning into $100 books. I mean, I can't even name. It was probably hundreds.
The Legend comics were flipping for hundreds of bucks. Those were the Dark Horse Legends ones. Like I was like with Darth Talon and all these other characters were 100%. Like I would get these as throw-ins during COVID, right? People put these in as throw-ins because they're like, "Oh, Phil, you like Star Wars? Here's a throw-in." And all of a sudden, I'm just like 6 to 12 months later, I'm doing my own comic book sale, and I'm like, oh man, I got a copy that's like $300. I traded that book for ridiculous things, and it was a throw-in, and they gave me variants of it too.
Right.
It's crazy. Star Wars was nuts when they started.
I mean, outside of the core series, like I think was it JSS Brooklyn said it? Was that it? Yeah. The original series is still doing well. Yeah. But you look at, like, you can go into any book, a lot of those Darth this, all those random Darth characters.
That's like that's like golden age when it comes to Star Wars, right? That's like saying like the first appearance of Woody Woodpecker, the first appearance of Iron Man, like is going to go down drastically because no. That's what started Star Wars. It's going to be fine.
I mean, like even High Republic, all the High Republic books were like this. I mean, it literally, you couldn't touch Star Wars. You couldn't. Speculating on Star Wars was a must. Like any first appearance, it was like a run. You better run out and get it because it's going to be hot.
I remember when High Republic dropped, it was like most of the top 10.
It was the top. It was on the top 10 for probably 4 months.
All the different variants, every single time was just
yeah. And now it's interesting. Like the High Republic, you could buy for cover price now. Like and it goes back to everyone and their mother having a copy.
Even the one
what do you think hurt Star Wars? Was it too much speculation too fast based on all that excitement? Is it poor content, or is it a mixture of all those things? Is it the market just overall? Like people just don't have time or interest in it? Is it lack of conversation? Is it all the above?
I think you're hitting on a lot of those things, Matt. In my opinion, yes, there was a lot of characters. The thing that was magic about The Mandalorian was the fact it could expand on a universe without Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Darth Vader, Anakin, Obi-Wan. You could listen to a Star Wars story and you could understand where it is in the universe and not have to have those magic 12 characters that are always in every single Star Wars entity. A lot like Rogue One. To be honest, Rogue One is what did it. Rogue One coming in and taking in Star Wars characters that nobody knew about, and actually Disney showing with that showed that they could do something when they really wanted to. When they really wanted to, and they put the time and effort in. Rogue One proved that. Mandalorian excelled on that, and they put Filoni and Favreau in, and those two knocked it out of the park because they took all these side characters that Star Wars fans knew. We all like if you were a dork Star Wars fan, like you knew all these goofy characters that they were bringing in, like IG-88s, and you got Bosk, and you got all these bounty hunters that you were kind of like goo goo gagaing over for years. We always knew those characters, and then introducing them, this was huge, absolutely huge. But honestly, it really started to fall apart with Book of Boba Fett.
You're right.
Yeah, Book of Boba Fett was really what took a lot of things sideways, because there were so many characters that were supposed to come from that, and at the same time too, everybody assumed High Republic was going to be something huge and that Disney was definitely going to get into, but we started canceling projects. The Game of Thrones writers were involved. We started to have all these different things. And because of one flop or another, or the Game of Thrones last episode sucked so bad that Disney canceled their 3-movie arc, right? All of a sudden that people were investing in those old stories and things of that nature, they started getting burned fast. And I feel like that's what really brought the bottom out of Star Wars, was the announcements. We had Rogue. We were supposed to get a Rogue's series with what's her name that made Wonder Woman. Back on. But remember, it's going to be like
Patty something? No.
Yeah, Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins was going to do this World War II like Rogue Squadron version of Star Wars, and man, I was pumped. They were making all these announcements, and everything just started getting canceled. Obi-Wan movie canceled for a series, and they kept on making series as well, which is the hardest time to keep writing consistent. We've seen it with Marvel. You see it with Moon Knight. You see it with all the other different characters that we've done with a series. Yeah, they're a little bit better, but they're not movie better. There's not that kind of speculation and hold. So for me, it's also the fact Star Wars went away from movies, and they started really just throwing in these B characters into 1-episode arcs, and then they were gone.
I mean, like the other thing we were gonna in this article is like BK's the book that it was trending. He has a scar on his face that actually Obi-Wan gave him, and they thought that this book was going to be referenced in the Obi-Wan series, and so people were like, "Oh, they're really developing BK here. He's probably going to show up in Obi-Wan." I mean, that would have been cool, but it didn't happen.
And then he gets owned in Book of Boba Fett. It's just like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, these are all really good points. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say his first appearance in Darth Vader 1, which was a huge print run book, but which is another factor here. But $100 is a 9.8 for BK's first appearance versus $458. So those are some of the highlights in this snapshot. But I thought Star Wars was a good. You can take this off, Jim.
Well, I was going to say just before we close that out, just I was going to ask. A lot of people have mentioned in the comments about title clutter, and I think we're kind of talking about that from a content perspective with streaming and movies, and they kind of getting confusing and bringing in a character, taking out a character. But what about in the comic book world? All the different titles that were coming out. Do you think that saturated things or confused people? Like it diverted attention from a core kind of story.
I don't know if that's a major complaint with Marvel now. It's like, do you need 10 Spider-Man cover or 10 Spider-Man issues? It's hard for people to focus on what to read. I don't think that was the issue. There's another issue with just good old-fashioned water cooler chit chat. When you would have a series come out once a week, it really helped build things up. Like if you remember X-Men 92, when we were after every episode, there would be all these reaction videos the next day.
You mean
and all the books 97, sorry.
You said, I was like, is there a different one?
Yeah, 97.
Yeah,
and then everything related to that book was then trending in the comic book form into some capacity or something related to it. Where you have these other series that release in one lump, and like no one's talking about what the newest What If series, like, because it was all one dump, and then no one has gone back and kind of.
But it was a bad season, though. What If season 3 was a rough season? I don't know if you
was it. See, I didn't. I forgot about it.
I kind of forgot about it. But real quick, before we go on, guys, be sure to type in #Witchblade if you want to win the giveaway this week, which is again this cool kind of homage to Witchblade 7, but it's an homage to the Brood for X-Men, right?
Yeah. I forget what issue. It's like 253, 283, something like that. I forget.
Yeah. So type in Witchblade. So sorry, I didn't mean to derail. Just wanted to get guys.
One says he never buys new high dollar ratios except exclusives. But here's your chance. One, you can just win it.
but I think a part of that goes to, though, like Marvel was, especially in the Star Wars situation, all of a sudden at that time they were dropping a new book every other week. That was first key appearance, first key of this, first key of new Sith sisters, new blah blah blah, new blah blah blah. Every single issue was new. It was like Batman with the Tinian run, where every single month it was a new relative of one of his old rogues. We've got Bane's daughter and Scarecrow's ex best friend's college roommate from whatever.
It wasn't just like one character. It was usually like 7 different characters.
Yes, everything was a Strange Academy with a whole new cast, right? Like 20 appearances. Yeah.
And so people thought like that this buzz that would happen with Mandalorian would just keep happening forever. That this was now going to be this constant level of buzz and excitement for the foreseeable future with Star Wars. Because theoretically, people have always wanted a great return for Star Wars, a big return to form, and people wanted a lot of content. Turns out people just don't want they want good content. So it's kind of yeah. So I mean, Star Wars was a good content,
right? There's a lot of straying opinion in that fandom as far as what is good content. As a person that had to live in books for like 20 years, Star Wars fan, like just to get to the prequels and stuff like that, man, that was a long time, like getting into college to wait in line for those movies. But at the same time, right, that everybody now is so saturated with Star Wars, we can start to be picky. It's like with Marvel too. Like all of a sudden we've gotten so many good Marvel movies. Now we can actually start to judge even at the peaks of the mountains, the little plateaus in between. Like all this, like, oh, that was terrible. We've been spoiled.
Yeah, have we gotten greedy? Like, they keep pumping it out. People keep watching it, and then we keep having these conversations of like, it's just like it's not that good. It wasn't really focused. It was off. And it breaks my heart. We see that with Marvel movies in this phase, or the last phase anyway. It's just in the TV streaming. It's cluttered. It's cluttered.
Remember Captain America in the 80s, guys? Okay, with that motorcycle helmet and like, you guys don't know what you've got. Okay.
Although we had Dolph Lundgren as Punisher, which was actually not that terrible.
There's been worse things that have floated around recently. Yes.
We also had Hasselhoff as Nick Shield in that same time frame.
We had Jared Leto as also Morbius. So I mean, it's
it's the world we live in now. All right, guys. Well, let's do this giveaway real quick. So, guys, if you we had up to I think 60 people watching at one point, so that's a pretty good turnout. So, thank you guys for supporting the channel, what we're doing. If you are enjoying our content or even our website, 2 things you can do. One is you can sign up for coverprice.com and become a member and support us, and it gives you there's a ton of good stuff. All your what your entire collection's worth in just one go. We aggregate a bunch of sales data and tell you the fair market value for both the raw and for the slab sales. The other thing you can do is just like and push buttons on your screen right now. Any button works for us.
Nice.
All right, so let's go ahead and pick a winner.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, so one said it didn't get it. So let's try give it. Let's see if one can get it. I'm pulling for you, one.
Well, I put my name in there. If I get it, then one, you got it. There you go. You got like 2 entries now.
Hey, John, you're muted.
Okay, one sec. Trying to get this far. 1 sec.
No worries. Yeah. So before, as he gets that on, thank you for coming on, Phil. It is. I wanted to use the time to talk about the dangers of speculation, going into Star Wars. But Star Wars itself, there was, it was such a good sampling of what happens when you overspec, and the dangers of if you bought into all those Star Wars books early on, you're hurting. Like there's no coming back from like buying into all those books at prime prices.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to also maybe talk more about like that chart you're giving people too. Like there's sweet spots to jump in on this time in the market. Guys. There needs to be, and I think at the same time too, while FOMO does actually keep LCSs in business, it keeps comics moving and going. There is nothing wrong with FOMO. There's but when we get into the gambling side of this, guys, it's when you get into that, you have to know your outs. You have to know when what's break even, what's move out, when is it time to move, and you start to actually do a little bit more analysis numerically as opposed to just watching rumors on YouTube. You're going to be okay, but you have to actually do a little bit of actual analysis with the market and understand it. And I think that's where a chart like that really comes in handy for people to be like, you know what, these are when people start talking about it. And it could get to here, but boy, if it doesn't, I'm out a lot. If I buy in right now, I should.
So you're saying you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them?
Oh yeah, this is the 100% Kenny Rogers.
Well said, Phil. All right, here we go. We're gonna draw 3, 2, 1. And Lewis, for winning, I saw that you mentioned in the comment you're here. Yes, you won the comment last time. So reach out to Matt at covrprice.com with your address, and we'll get that shipped. And congratulations to Mr. Ronald Lee.
Ronald Lee.
Boom, boom, boom.
Congratulations, Ronald.
Yeah, I'm gonna put
this. Is that a lion? I'm trying to see. Is that? It must be. Yeah, it looks like a lion.
It's a lion. It's a lion.
Right.
All right. Any final words?
I wanted to jump on one thing that Lefteros said, which is one of my favorite points, and this is what I've taken to heart my entire collecting. Like, if you buy books regularly, and then you find some that you don't care about, but you come across a good deal, you sell them. That helps you to like make these regular purchases from your stores. It creates a positive cycle that doesn't take the impact on your own personal finances. It helps take that sting away. And this is one of those few industries, I refuse to call it a hobby. It's one of the few hobbies that can pay for itself. Whether like, some type of things like golf, you're never going to get that money back unless you're a professional golfer, and then you get that money back. But this world is something that if you do things, it doesn't even have to take skill. If you come across a book at a good value and you flip it, there's no harm in doing that. It's because it's just going to go right back in comics. This is what keeps us.
You're the one that told me to do that though too, Matt. Remember we used to have these conversations, known each other for a few years now, and I remember saying like, I don't want to be a flipper, Matt. I don't want to be a seller. I don't want to be a flipper. I don't want to be a seller. And you're like, Phil, you're never going to actually be able to pay for this and keep being able to collect if you don't find a way to start bringing things in for all the stuff that you're buying, right? Like, this is responsible collecting. Are you going to start to spend your kids' college money? Are you going to start to spend, that 401k? Like, are you just going to be constantly buying? You have to look at it responsibly. Like you said, it's an industry. This is an entire thing to be a part of. And if you're doing that and you're being responsible to yourself, to your family, to those that you participate in this collecting and everything else hobby with, then you have to be a person that does both. And that's just a part of this entire program.
Yeah. And it's not about flipping. I think flipping is like, and even if you bought
you're buying 30 copies, to be in my opinion. That's
if you're going into a shop and grabbing 20 copies, that you're a retailer at that point. You have an eBay shop and it's an extra income. That's a different thing, which is not, if you're taking from shops, that's not great. But if you're buying them from Diamond, that's great because you're feeding into that print run. You're responsibly ordering, and you're serving a need to the online community that can't get those books who don't have LCS. That's totally fine. But if you come across a good deal, like we do our Day After Wednesday, the point of the Day After Wednesday article is to highlight books that are already moving that came out the day before. Yep. What the intention is, if you go back to your shop the next day, or you read our article, you're like, oh, I saw that on my shop's wall for $20. It's now selling for $100. I'm going to go back to my shop, buy it. If you don't care about it, you flip it. Now you have $80 to spend for the next week or two, depending on how far that takes you. But it really helps curb that spending. Or you buy something that you really want. You get the book you want. The person that bought it from you on eBay gets what they want. We get the sale. We can track that value. It's part of an entire ecosystem, and a lot of people put a lot of like negativity on reselling the comic book when I don't think that's fair. People like feel like you're feeding into a FOMO market. Everyone's an adult. They're making their own decisions to order those things, and I've literally talked to these people, and not every person obviously, but that was that opinion. Like, I want this now. I have to have this now.
As long as people are willing to pay the price for those books, then nobody's doing anything wrong, in my opinion. And at the same time, too, these people, there's nobody that's selling these books that's putting a gun to somebody's head, right? There's no imaginary weapon being put at somebody's throat to be like, look, you're gonna buy one of these copies for. Nobody's doing that, right? People are buying it because they want it, and that's the way it is. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm a cover A guy, and I'm out a lot of my pull lists, so people know when they buy books from me because I've had them. I only got one copy. Like, you got another one? Nope. I only bought one. So,
and Left House is like, Left House needs to come on the show. He's like knocking out all the points. It's like, yes, the comic print runs are super low right now. If you believe in a book, this is what's happening with Kickstarters. This is what's happening with, like, I know a lot of boom incentives are really crazy low right now because stores are not ordering. They're doing 1 in 50s, 1 in 25s, 1 in 100 in some cases for shops that are only ordering like 2. You know, it's there's some opportunities, and this is why, like, if it has a really good cover, and it's a really weird low print series, you don't know the series, grab that book if you see it cheap somewhere, and just hold on to it. If it features like a cover, like an artist like Flops, these cover artists just take off. It's like with Jenny Frieson. Any book she did throughout her entire her history of drawing covers, most of them are all $50 to $100 plus books because of how popular she is now. So like, Left House is right. There's a really great opportunity right now in the community, but this also means patience.
Yes,
and knowing that it's not going to be worth X amount of dollars tomorrow, in a month, 6 months, a year even. It could be, we could do a reflective on this in 5 years, and you're like, oh, this is now $100 book. You just never know. Some of these you just got to tuck away and let it sit in your.
You can't buy everything, man. Just go and read stories, have fun.
But buy what you like. If you see a cover, you're like, I love this cover, pick it up.
Most collections are tucked away. Like, I think of mine, and it's just like stuff I bought when I was younger, and it's tucked away. Just they're waiting, ready to go. Great feedback, guys. I think awesome. Thank you, everyone from the comments, for commenting. I will just add to what you guys are saying, and just saying, like, the ecosystem is completely connected. It's not about just new comics. It's not just about aftermarket. They feed each other, and I think that's why we like this thing. Before Matt goes to any convention together, Matt's always like, I got to sell some comics so I can have money to buy stuff, every single time.
I still run from the same rule that I'm like, I can't get to my wife, hey, can I bring $800 with me to a convention? And it's one of those things where it's like, what are you going to buy? More stuff to clutter up your room? It's so you got to do it off
the other enemy of every collector is space.
It's very true.
It's very true.
On that note, guys, thank you guys so much. Awesome conversation. Check back in on Monday to get your comics covered with Covered Comics, or whatever we call our show. Be back on Tuesday and Thursday for the top 10 and also the Shakers. Phil, thank you so much for being on the show. Always a pleasure. Matt, you're handsome as ever.
And send me, for those winners out there, send me your addresses and we'll get it out.
Boom. Thanks, guys.
All right.